Good morning, dear faculty and students of IILM University, Greater Noida. It's indeed my honor today to welcome Professor Roshni Sengupta and Professor Chandni Sengupta, who have traveled down to us to speak about their book, Operation Sindoor. I'm sure you would have all heard about it, and we are going to speak about it in greater detail. Welcome to both of you, and I'm sure the details about Op Sindoor that you disclosed today, and I being an army man would have lots of questions to ask you, and we are looking forward to the session. Thank you. May I request you, Professor Roshni, to say a few words before we start?
Thank you, General Wadhwa, for this wonderful introduction. And I would like to begin by also thanking IILM University, Greater Noida, for inviting us to speak about our book, Operation Sindoor, India's New Normal. I am very happy to tell you that this is one of the first books to hit the stands, to hit the markets on Operation Sindoor. And we wrote it in a very quick time. And one of the reasons that happened was that it was a lot of the information that you find in the book is a record of how events were unfolding in real time. So this is Operation Sindoor. I have to tell you, like Kargil War was seen as the first televised war, Operation Sindoor was the first social media war. And as you are all, aware, and you're all the social media generation as well, most of the wars and conflicts that are going on in the world today are social media conflicts. They are a lot happens in social media more than what happens on the ground. So Operation Sindoor was a social media war as much as it was a real conflict. But the book also contextualizes the reason why India had to take this extreme step of using of planning an operation such as Operation Sindoor and carrying it out with such precision. And the story begins, as you all know, in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April 2025, when 26 innocent tourists and one poniwala in Kashmir were mercilessly gunned down by terrorists who came who crossed the border and came from the other side. And it was, as the story unfolded, the horrors of it became more and more clear that a lot of these victims were actually asked if their religion before being shot through their head. And that made it an even greater crime. In fact, almost like a religious genocide. Right. So therefore, the response to this atrocity had to be as extreme as the violence itself, the violence that was perpetrated by Pakistan in Pahalgam. But we also wanted to, in this book, contextualize the fact that this is not the first time that a cross-border terrorism has affected us, and Indian blood has been shed in this way. And this is perhaps not going to be the last time that it has happened, right?
Thanks, because we're going to talk about it in greater amount of detail. I would now request you, Chandni, to take a minute and say a few words before I begin.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would like to thank IILM University, Greater Noida, for having both of us here and for us to be able to share our thoughts, not only on the book, but also about, what went into writing this book, the kind of research that we did. A lot of material we got, from open source information that was available online. And to be able to put everything together, also to be able to record the experience that, we went through while writing this book, and journaling everything, to put all the research together and bring this out in record time is something that, is, I think, we would like to, congratulate ourselves on that. But at the same time, looking at the larger perspective, the geopolitical perspective, it's also an important work because it not only journals what happened during Operation Sindoor during those 3.5 days of the operation itself, but to put into context what happened in Pahalgam, what has been happening in Kashmir, which is a very significant aspect of this book, and the narrative. So, did we win or lose the narrative war? How can we, do better as far as narrative building is concerned? And also relating to the book to our foreign policy principles, to the basic strategy that we have as far as foreign policy is concerned. So that is also something that we wanted to record as part of this book. And I think we've been able to do it successfully, and we would now like to discuss it with Sir and take the questions.
Absolutely. I have been through this book, and my very first question is, both of you are academicians of a standing. Both of you are busy teaching in your own respective areas. You've achieved a lot as far as academics is concerned. What inspired you to take on a subject which is strictly military in nature? And how is it and why is it that you got involved in Operation Sindoor to the extent that you have brought out details the way they were happening on ground? That's my first question.
So when Pahalgam happened on the 22nd of April, that is when, right after that, from the 23rd onwards, we had decided that we are going to write about it. Now, in which form, whether it's going to be a book or a research paper or an article, we had to do something. So Pahalgam was something that, was the inspiration to begin with. So we wanted to write about terrorism. We wanted to write about how Pakistan has been sponsoring terrorism. And till such time, Operation Sindoor had not happened. It had not taken place. That happened later. Pahalgam was the primary inspiration for writing this book. We wanted to, wanted this book to also be a tribute to the 26 innocent lives that were lost. And of course, then when the operation happened, we kind of thought that
your
this needs...
Pahalgam chapter has been brought out in greater amount of detail, and subsequently you have mentioned day by day as the Operation Sindoor was moving. The question I have is, were any forces people also involved with you, helping you with the details? Because at various places you have even mentioned about the equipment that the Indian Army was using. For example, you have brought out our air defense equipment called Pichora missiles and ZU-23 and Shilka air defense. This is something I understand. May I take the liberty of asking you that where did you get these details from? When you write down the equipment that we were using.
So a lot of this information was put out in the media during the press conferences that happened. While Vikram Misri and the two distinguished ladies from the forces, they did the press conferences, they mentioned that they had used hammer and scalp and Pichora, and later when another press conference took place, they also mentioned about BrahMos. So a lot of this information was available, online on the Press Information Bureau website. Also, the transcripts of their press conferences. So a lot of this information we took from there.
So there was no forces association.
We did not know. There was.
Well, I have been here for 20 years. You could have thought of me.
Of course, we should have. Yes.
You'd have, good, but it's a great effort indeed. And do you think in Operation Sindoor, we were the winners?
We certainly had the upper hand in the sense that we went in with a certain strategic objective. And the objective was to tell the adversary or to inform the adversary that if you perpetrate the kind of violence that you did in Pahalgam and anything around that, you are going to be met with, a response that will be at par with what you did. So there will be no backpedaling from us. There will be no dossier exchange anymore. There is going to be, military response. So the ramping up of the kind of response that has happened to such violence from across the border we have witnessed it from Uri onwards. So in Uri we did the surgical strikes, then we did then Balakot happened after Pulwama, and Operation Sindoor was again ramping up from Balakot, going that extra mile, and this is perhaps the strongest military response that we have dealt Pakistan for a terrorist attack that they have perpetrated. I do not think they anticipated the kind of response that Operation Sindoor gave them, and that the fact that we listed out 21 sites that we were targeting, but we decided only to go for 9. So we still have about 12 sites that are on the target, that are on the radar.
Why do you call it India's new normal? Did we have an old normal earlier that now you're calling it as India's new normal? In fact, not only you, the other books which have come out, they're also calling it India's new normal. And we are still saying that as far as we are concerned, Sindoor 2 is still open. And I must tell you, and I must tell the students and the faculty, that day after tomorrow in India International Center, the Indian Army Chief is releasing a book on Operation Sindoor, and there are 4 authors in that. One is an IAS officer who was an ambassador, and then there is an Army Major General, there is an Air Force Air Vice Marshal, and there is an Army Brigadier, all experts in the art of warfare. So they have brought out lots of details. That book has been read by one of the previous Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia. He was the one who travelled with me to IILM Gurugram, and Operation Sindoor, written by Roshni and Chandni, was released at that time. I must say that India's new normal needs to be explained the way you see it. Why is it India's new normal? Were we different earlier? We were always responding.
Why is it called India's new normal? India has had, of course, we know that India does not have a first attack policy. We have never launched an military aggression against any of our adversaries and on both sides of the border. We don't launch it. We have always responded to attacks. So all of the previous occasions when Pakistan has attacked us or has attacked us through has launched terrorist attacks against us, we have responded to it. But the response has, over the years, not been in consonance with the level of attack or with the level of violence that they had perpetrated against India. In the Parliament attack, we would have thought there would be a greater level of a military response to what happened in the Parliament. Did not happen. When Mumbai 26/11 happened, what we did was, of course, I wouldn't say that there was no response. There was. But all we did was exchange dossiers, make a list of all the people that we wanted, to be expatriated from India and, brought to justice in India. But the kind of response that a Mumbai 26/11 sort of a terrorist attack required did not happen. So why we call this a new normal is because this is how it is going to be from now onwards. So Pakistan and other adversaries, Bangladesh, China, all the other adversaries of India who surround us now. And India sits in a pretty, volatile situation and a volatile subcontinent right now, with the eastern border, eastern front also giving us some trouble. The adversary should very clearly be told, and of course Operation Sindoor has told the adversary very clearly that you can expect worse from India now, but not any better. So this is how we are going to respond to any incursion, any attacks, any violence against India.
Well, thanks, Professor Roshni. We'll hear you as well. I must tell you, one message is very, very clear now, not only to our neighbors, but to the entire world, that we shall not keep quiet henceforth. We are going to hit back with double the force. And you're all aware, and this book very clearly brings out, that 9 of the air bases were destroyed. And the other day, I saw the photographs in social media, the number of soldiers of Pakistan Army which were killed, about 600 of them, possibly more. And the number of aircraft were destroyed, whatever they might say. I'm sure a lot of the media has said, Pakistan media has said that they destroyed 6 of our rifles. That never happened. It was only 1. It was never 6. That you can be very, very sure of. And a certain amount of details which the book has brought out, certain amount of details which are known to me. That's how we are calling it India's new normal. And the new normal is, you try now, we'll give you back. Right? And is it sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Is it a fact that we asked for the ceasefire like the way it was announced in Washington by President Trump?
No, I don't think that happened. I think it was Pakistan's DGMO who got in touch with our DGMO and requested for a ceasefire because they could not handle it. We had, badgered their air bases, their systems, and they could not, take it anymore. And also particularly Noor Khan, where their nuclear stockpile is kept, and also the American nuclear stockpile is, kept in Noor Khan. So after we hit Noor Khan, I think Pakistan did not have an option but to request for a ceasefire.
In fact, I would tend to believe that Americans were more worried when we hit Noor Khan, because in Noor Khan, underground is American nuclear stockpile. And they were worried that in case we hit again, there's going to be an escalation. So even before, I believe, the DGMO called their DGMO, Director General of Military Operations, spoke to our DGMO requesting for a ceasefire. In Washington, the Americans announced a ceasefire on their own. That's the way it is, though Pakistan may not agree to it. And repeatedly, President Trump has been saying that Mr. Modi spoke to me. He never did. He never did, which is a fact. I have some access to these details through my own resources. I must tell you that this book offers in-depth analysis of the objectives, the execution and broader implications of Operation Sindoor, highlighting its significance with India's national security and key takeaways and the lessons learned for future strategic planning. I mean, they have gone to that extent. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, even the new book, which is being released day after tomorrow, the ex-DGMO tells me, is possibly not coming up to these kind of details which they have brought out. One new doctrine we have our own now is that red line cannot be crossed. We have learnt how to terminate a conflict like we did this time. Takeaways. The 2 very important takeaways that they have brought out in their book, which is emerging out of the contents of their book, and these takeaways are: India was united, all party delegations were sent to the world, you're all aware, after Operation Sindoor, and there were no political differences. And this 88 hours of campaign has redefined India's posture against proxy wars in future. So this very clearly stands out. Now, Chandni, yeah.
Just taking a cue from what Professor Roshni just said about how this can be seen as a ramped-up approach. Post 26/11, we obviously did not do as much as we should have done. Also, our foreign policy, our military strategy, if we look back in time, if we take some examples from history, the Arthashastra, it talks about peace, Sandhi, as the first step of foreign policy. And when Sandhi does not work, then Vigraha or war. So war has never been the first option for us. Unless and until we are pushed against the wall, we never, want to get into a conflictual situation with any country, any neighboring country or any country for that matter in the world. But the Arthashastra also tells us that the mandala theory is very important. You cannot consider your neighbor to be your best friend. And when your neighbor is a country like Pakistan, which has very clearly and very openly said on a couple of occasions, on many occasions, which has also been shown in the recently released film Dhurandhar, bleed India with 1,000 cuts. So with a country like that, with a neighbor like that, I think the least we could have done is an operation like Operation Sindoor, also Balakot and Uri prior to this. But to deal with Pakistan, I think a ramped up approach was required. And also the whole of government approach, the entire machinery, played its part. Not only the forces, of course, they were at the forefront, but the government, the administration, everybody was in sync. So again, going back in time and taking one example from history, even if we look at the wars that used to take place in the ancient time, all the four wings of the army, whether it is Padati, whether it is the Ashva or the horses, Padati meaning the infantry, the Rathas and the Gajas or the elephants, all of them, part of the what was known as a Chaturang system used to work together. So similarly, it was the whole of government approach where the forces, the administration, the government, everybody worked together. Also the citizens, they also contributed because they participated in the mock drills and contributed in whatever way possible. Also, the people living in the border areas, they were worst affected because there was no electricity for those 3.5 days, and they had to bear the brunt of what was happening. Constant shelling, and a lot of lives were lost. So, if we look at our strategy in terms of examples from history also, it has never been to attack and to go and occupy another country. If we take Ashoka's example, Dhamma Vijay, so conquest through the positive light of dharma, right? So he gave up the conquest through violence or Bheri Ghosha and moved towards Dhamma Ghosha. So it's never been violence, but and we've always followed the Madhyam Marg, the middle path. And as our Honorable Prime Minister has also said, that we are a land of Budh and not Yudh. But when we are dealing with a country like Pakistan and now also Bangladesh, because matters have become quite bad on the Eastern Front, I think we need to, use certain strategic tools, and the upayas that are mentioned in the Arthashastra, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, all that comes into play because I feel this is the right time. And as we are, already talking about ramping up our military infrastructure and the fact that Operation Sindoor is ongoing, I think it's very important for us to understand the nature of our enemy. Shatru Bodh, understanding the enemy, is something that is very, very important and very critical.
Great. I would tend to ask you a question because you were going into a lot of details as the operation was proceeding. I personally would say that when Pakistan carried Pakistan terrorists or whoever, I think Pakistan regular army was also involved in whatever happened at Pahalgam. When they knew that they were going to carry out an operation Pahalgam, they were fully prepared that India is going to react. Mind you, all their drones, which were used in the Operation Sindoor, was given by Turkey. It didn't happen instantly. They already had the stockpile of the drones obtained from Turkey. And China had given them additional so-called planes. They were ready for it. So they expected that India is going to react, right? What are your views as you went along carrying out a lot of research and through the social media and speaking to knowledgeable people? You think they knew that we are going to react in that manner? And along with that, do you think our equipment is far superior to theirs?
I do think that they expected that India will attack. Primarily after Uri and Balakot, that India is not going to sit quiet, and it is going to be a military response to Pahalgam. Now, what the extent of that response is going to be, that Pakistan probably did not anticipate, and they did not probably think that we are going to go and hit their training camps, the terror training camps, and we hit 9 terror training camps, which is quite a large number for an operation that took place within the 20-25 minutes. We simultaneously hit 9 places. And what happened later on in terms of the next 2 or 3 days as events unfolded is because Pakistan, sort of brought in its drones, which of course did not, we were successful in repelling those attacks, those drone attacks. They also fired a missile, surface-to-air missile, and it was intercepted at Sirsa. It was coming towards Delhi. So if it had not been intercepted at Sirsa, Delhi would have been hit. But, they have gone around telling the whole world that we kind of blew up their electricity system and the entire Delhi was under darkness. So Pakistan has been very successful in selling a false narrative to the world, not just around Operation Sindoor, but in general. So they never tell anybody that we lost all the wars with India. Their constant narrativization is around how they won everything against India. They did not start any war. They won 1971.
Therein, I would like to add, just for the information of you all, that in 1971 war, I was a young officer, a young captain with 2 years of service. When Bangladesh was created, even at that time, Pakistan said, well, we are moving out on their own. It is when we told the world that we have 93,000 prisoners with us in India. They are always talking on these terms. Why? Because जो छोटा होता है, उसको शर्म आती है. Right? Right now, the world knows what has happened. Very much knows. Why is it that the Russian president came here the other day? And why is it that China is softened its stand towards us? Because they know our military strength. The BrahMos missile which we have, which was developed, is a product of Indo-Russian research work, is one of the finest in the world. And as far as our artillery is concerned, as far as the training of our pilots is concerned, I mean, they are nowhere near. Having served in the army for 37.5 years, I can assure you that much, that I have seen so much aspects of, having been in Kashmir twice, so much aspects of their profiling, the way they feel they can hit us. They're absolutely wrong. They can go around advertising, speaking, whatever they want, but the world understands. Why should France be giving us Rafale jets? And we have just signed a contract only day before yesterday for a number of Rafale jets coming in again. And Indian research industry is so strong, the defense research industry, that whatever they might try, we will always have a response. And we are a nuclear power. They may be a nuclear power, but we too are a nuclear power. So do you think this is a new aspect that I heard from you, that they fired a missile and that it was coming towards Delhi? God forbid, had that happened, then it would have been an all-out war. A missile falling on Delhi would have resulted in thousands of casualties. Then it would have been an all-out war. But this is the first time, really, and thank you for bringing it out. I didn't know about it. And I hope it was a conventional missile and not a nuclear missile.
It wasn't a nuclear missile. It was one of the Chinese missiles that they had renamed Babar, if I'm not mistaken. And it was intercepted over Sirsa. And the wreckage was found. Wreckage was displayed as well. Thankfully, it did not hit anything, but the Pakistanis went around telling everyone that we kind of destroyed the electricity grid and everything, and India is under darkness. So that is the level of narrative building or false narrative building that they do. But one thing, sir, I must tell you, that has been one significant fallout of Operation Sindoor and the days as they have passed after it, is the fact that this veneer of Pakistan being someone with whom we can be friends has fallen off. This mask has fallen off, and also the mask of the Pakistani liberal has also fallen off, because a lot of people who Indians thought were liberals, and they had a lot of these aman ki asha sort of things to say about how they want friendship with India and things like that. They started calling Pahalgam a false flag operation almost immediately after it happened. And when Operation Sindoor happened, they very clearly pointed fingers at India and said that, look, you guys did a Pahalgam, you carried out a false flag operation there, and then you had a ruse to hit us, and then you did so. So that mask has fallen off. The Aman Ki Asha hope, or let's say the whole sort of theory or concept that had built up over the years, that we can be friends with this adversary. One thing, because there are students here, I also want to share this with you, that there is this hope of being friends with the neighbor, with a neighbor such as Pakistan, has always been a one-sided hope, because from the other side, all you get is hate. Right? So from here, if there is hope, from there it's always hate. You scratch the surface and you will find that even in their textbooks, there is an inculcation of a lot of hatred, not just against Indians, but the Hindus, because the country itself was created out of fear. The fear of the majority, the fear of the Hindu, and therefore, we need a homeland for the subcontinents, Muslims, and so on and so forth. That history, of course, all of you are aware of. But the fact of the matter is that this hope, it does not really exist on the other side, even if it has little semblance in some, some songs and some cross-border junkets that we might do. So that entire edifice of, how we might build a friendly neighborhood in this region has really collapsed after Operation Sindoor, and India has now realized, of course, India has known it for a while, that it is all alone in the neighborhood and it has to fend for itself when the worst happens, when there is a war or a full-scale war or even a half war, like what happened in Operation Sindoor. India has only itself to fall back on. Of course, we have China, like Sir said, very rightly, has softened its stand with India. But very interestingly, the eastern border is also now very active. And the Bangladeshis are building this little arc with Pakistanis and shaking hands with them. And to think of it, that we were the ones who actually liberated Bangladesh from this very Pakistan, who now they are calling their own brothers, their own sort of Islamic Ummah brothers and things like that. So India is in a situation where it can defend itself. It is militarily absolutely capable of defending itself, but it has to be extremely careful about both of these, not just one side or one border being active, but the other border being active as well.
We need to first understand the nature of our enemy. So, as Professor Roshni just mentioned, that all this Aman ki Asha, the Asha is only from our side, from India's side. So when our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee took the bus to Lahore, what did we get? We got Kargil in return. So all these efforts have, at the end of the day, fizzled out. So we need to know our enemy. We need to understand the nature of Pakistan, and also now Bangladesh, what they are up to, what is their stand on India, and how do they propose to, bleed India more with more than 1,000 cuts. So we need to understand the nature of our enemy. So Shatru Bodh is something which I think we used to lack, but I think because of this new normal that has been established, we now understand our enemy better.
Well, all that I would like to say is that we have nothing to worry. We can take on Pakistan, we can take on Bangladesh, any day, any time. Bangladesh is peanuts for us. They themselves are in trouble. They have no military strength in any way. It's all political. I think their elections are coming, and that's how it's going about it. They are dependent on us. As far as Pakistan is concerned, if they don't get into these kind of activities and go around crying in the world that this is what India is doing to us, we need equipment, we need money. Do you know the kind of debt Pakistan is in? That if the Americans don't help them, they don't even have anything to eat with. They don't have money to even have their meals, the kind of debt they are in. And they are going to the International Monetary Fund repeatedly for debt. So, nothing to worry there. And I'm very happy that the two authors, Professor Roshni and Professor Chandni, they have, in the final paragraph of acknowledgement, they have very clearly said that this book is a tribute to the 26 innocent civilians who were brutally gunned down by terrorists in Pahalgam on the fateful afternoon of April the 22nd, 2025. To their grieving families, you're not alone. The entire nation stands with you and grieves with you. And today, all of us, we are speaking the same language. Now, as far as the world thinking that Pakistan, as you did bring out, that Pakistan is always having the upper hand, what did the world think when an American president invites the chief of the army of Pakistan to White House and hosts a lunch to him? American president is here and the chief of the army of Pakistan is here. Why did he do that? It is, the world understands he did that because he was worried that if the Indians attack again, Americans would be in trouble because their nuclear stockpile is held by Pakistan, जिसके लिए वो किराया ले रहे हैं अमेरिका से, पैसा खा रहे हैं उनका. That is how America supports them. And why have they done it? They have done it for any future conflict with China or with Russia. And Chinese and Russians have understood now the kind of game Pakistan is playing. So we have nothing to worry. Here is the chief who goes to the White House, has lunch with the American president, comes back. Even without asking his prime minister, he announces that I am now going to be a field marshal. Can it ever happen in the Indian context? When all these big people, when they come to India, do they ever speak to our chiefs? Chiefs have no business in this. This is the job of the politicians. Our job is to fight. So we are a committed army and we don't get into politics. Unlike the Pakistanis. Pakistan has existed for so many years like we have, but half of these years, Pakistan's army has been ruling the country. Their presidents have always been the army chiefs. You know about Ziaul Haq and so-and-so, so-and-so. How can a country progress under the army rule? Never. We strongly believe that.
Even so, sir, even if Pakistan has been under army rule for almost its entirety of its history, they cannot stand for more than 3 days in a conventional war with India. So they cannot manage a conventional war with India for more than 3 days, which is why they, indulge in proxy wars.
And now we don't have to worry at all. You know what is happening in Balochistan. Every day the Pakistani soldiers and officers are getting killed. And it is a matter of time that Balochistan would be a reality. So there you are, Pakistan gets split. Bangladesh is gone, East Pakistan, and Balochistan will become a reality in maximum maybe 2 years, 3 years. They can't fight the terrorists in Balochistan. And that's what is happening. And last but not the least, I'm taking just a few seconds to mention that Mr. Sudeep Talukdar, the novelist and strategic affairs columnist, he had given tremendous amount of compliments to them, which I will not be able to even use those kind of words. But thanks to both of you, you have said Operation Sindoor is a reminder that national dignity, one's challenge, must be defended not just with words, but with will. And I would further add, and action. This is what we have demonstrated. Thanks to our government, thanks to the Indian Armed Forces. And I can tell you, Navy did not play any part this time, but I know it that Indian submarines were very close to the Karachi border, underground. They were prepared to hit. The Indian Air Force was fully ready, absolutely. They were not given an opportunity to the kind of role that they would have played. So it is the American, should I call it interference or indulgence, that Operation Sindoor was called off by Americans for us. Otherwise, this time, as far as the present government is concerned, they had given free option to all the three army chiefs, all the three chiefs, Army, Navy, Air Force. Go ahead in what you can do. You want to destroy Pakistan, destroy it. And we would have done it, given another 10 days. Thanks to you both for the kind
Thank you for your service, sir.
the kind of work you have done in bringing out this book. And day after tomorrow, when in India International Center, when there will be a large forces crowd, I'll make it a point to try and grab an opportunity to speak on what you brought out. And this is the first book which came out, with the forces of bringing it now, right? Compliments to you, hats off to you, and Jai Hind.
Jai.